Hi yogi friends, Cathy here. Excited that you are here to practice with me today. This practice was inspired by a friend who comes to my Sunday morning Zoom classes. So this is a shout out to Carrie. She was talking about a practice that would be good for the end of a long day where you've been on your feet and your legs are tired and you're tired. Just something that would help to work out some of the kinks if you've been standing a lot during your work day or any other day. So that's what this practice is all about. Let's come into your comfy seat, cross-legged, sitting tall, and really settling into your space by beginning and closing the eyes. Notice any sounds you might hear in the room around you. Notice the temperature of the air against your skin, the feeling of your clothing on your body. And notice those points in the body that are grounded on the surface beneath you, in the feet, the ankles, the legs, and the bum. Bring some attention to your spine. We want it to be a tall spine from way down within the pelvis all the way up through the back, the neck, and right out through the crown of the head. And then finally bringing the attention to your breath, noticing the depth and pacing of the breath. And noticing if you bring attention to the breath, if that may change the depth and the pacing at all. Let's take a big full belly inhale, really filling up the lungs. You may even want to put the hand on the lower abdomen. You want to fill up the lower abdomen, then up through the lungs, then maybe even raising the collarbone slightly. And then pressing that exhale fully and completely out by bringing the navel toward the spine to empty the lungs completely. Take another full belly inhale, really filling up deep in the abdomen. Up through the lungs, raise the collarbone, and then press that exhale fully and completely out. And after this next big inhale, we'll chant Om together once to open our practice. And that chant is our reminder of this life force that's within each and every one of us, connecting us to one another and to all other living beings. And before we open the eyes, take one moment just to notice if the shoulders are feeling relaxed and neutral. And if they're not already, let's just allow them to be relaxed. And slowly and gently open the eyes when you're ready. Let's begin by lengthening fingers out about 12 inches off the mat. We're going to start with a torso twist, just letting the arms and the face follow. If you've been on your feet all day, this is a nice way to sort of loosen the muscles of the back because the spine has been working extra hard, keeping you upright all day. Let's raise the arms up to shoulder height now and just notice how that might bring these sensations into a little bit higher portion of the back. Turning the hands to face the ceiling, the palms up, and let's raise the arms up above the shoulders, bringing them into a V shape, just as wide or as narrow as is comfortable for you today. And continue that twist of the torso, and then we'll lower the arms slowly down, coming back down to rest on either side of the body when they get down to the mat. And let's lengthen up through the spine again, and then drop the chin toward the chest and just allow that move, that pose or position to be static for a moment. Just feeling the stretch in the upper shoulders and the back of the neck. And then we'll rock one ear over to one side and just allow this again to settle. Allow gravity to do the work here, opening up through the side of the neck. Dropping the chin back down to the chest, and we'll roll the opposite ear over to the opposite shoulder, allowing the eyes to close here if that feels good. It might allow you to really focus the attention on the lengthening of the side of the neck. Let's rock the ears from side to side. Now drop chin back to chest, rock one ear to one shoulder, bring chin back to chest, rock ear to opposite shoulder, and just continue this move for a moment. Just allowing some opening in the side of the neck there. Let's do one more on each side. Ear to shoulder, chin to chest, and ear to opposite shoulder. And chin back to chest, and then we'll raise the head upright. Let's come into our tabletop position now. Hands and knees. Spread fingers really nice and wide. Pressing the fingertips right down into the mat and really gripping the mat with the fingertips and the pad of the thumb, so the hands are like little spiders almost. Knees directly under the hips, crown in a straight line with the tail. Draw the navel up slightly, and the feet are directly behind the knees. Then let's drop the belly, coming into our cow position and maybe rocking back and forth on the hands and knees while we stay in cow position here. So just opening up the front body. And when we're back up to that tabletop, let's draw the navel toward the spine and press the spine up toward the ceiling into our cat pose. We'll do a little rock here as well. You might feel some nice opening in the side body here. When the hips are back and the hands are forward, if you want to bring the hips all the way down to the heels here, you could do that. Let's come back to our tabletop. Drop the belly once again into our cow position. On an exhale, navel to spine, spine to ceiling. Inhale, drop the belly. Exhale, curve the spine. Inhale, drop the belly. And exhale, curve the spine. Let's come back to that neutral tabletop position. And then we're going to do some hip circles, pressing the hip out to one side, bringing the heels back and across. Bringing the hips back and across the heels and pressing the hips out to the opposite side and then back up to tabletop. So we're making these big circles with the hips, taking them back, crossing over the heels, and then pressing out on the other side. Press out to one side, hips to heels, press hips out to the opposite side and back to table. Let's do two more in this direction. And one more in this direction. When you're back up at your tabletop, we're going to switch directions. So making the same movement with the hips in these big circles. And we're just going the opposite way now. You might hear a little creak in my floor here as I'm moving. Seems like this is always the move where the floor starts to creak. Let's do one more in this direction. And then we'll come back up to our tabletop. And we're going to curl the toes under behind us. Maybe move the palms one palm's length forward to come up into your down dog. And again, gripping with the fingers in the down dog. You might want to pedal the feet, pressing one heel toward the mat while you bend the other knee generously. This can really add to the feeling of length in the back of the legs, the back of the calves, from the Achilles all the way up to the back of the knee. And make sure to lengthen the crown of the head toward the front of your mat. And allow space between the ears and the shoulders here. And remembering to grip into the finger pads. Lots to remember and think about here. Draw the navel up toward the spine and press that tailbone toward the crease between the ceiling and the wall behind you. And then come to stillness if you haven't already. Bring the big toes slightly closer together so that the heels can open out just a little bit. Giving yourself a little internal rotation there in the hips. That will change the sensation in the backs of the legs. Now from here, let's bring the feet back to parallel. And let's lift the right leg up, bending the knee about 90 degrees. And then we're just going to make some circles with the hips here. With one hip, the one that's the knee is bent on that leg, just circling the knee and opening the hip, I should say. You can also think of circling this foot. And now let's reverse the direction of the circles. So again, making circles with this knee, which is opening up the hip. And you might really begin to feel this. Let's do one more in this direction. And then just extend the leg back out behind the hip and then gently lower it back down into your down dog. Now we'll lift the left leg up and do the same thing. And if the arms start to get tired, you can always come into a child's pose for a moment. Just come down to the knees and come into a child's pose, or rearrange the hands slightly. If you place the weight in that fleshy part between the thumb and the forefinger at the base of the palm, that can help release some of the effort in the hands. Let's circle this left leg if you haven't already started. Circling the knee, feeling these sensations in the hip here. Remembering to breathe. And then let's circle in the opposite direction. The arms may be getting tired because we've been here in this down dog for a few minutes or a few seconds. Let's extend that left leg out behind the hip again and lower it back down, bringing the knees down to the mat, opening the legs wide, the knees wide, bringing the big toes to touch and bringing the hips back to the heels, allowing the forehead to come down toward the mat into an extended child's pose and just letting everything rest here for a moment. You might want to rock the forehead from side to side. Sometimes that can feel really nice to just apply that pressure across the forehead. And from here, we're going to just lift the head up slightly and walk the fingertips over toward one side of the mat. You might even bring both hands off the mat. So the arms are extended out long, and you'll probably feel a nice opening in the side body on one side. And just hold here for a moment. And then we'll use the hands to walk us back through the center of the mat and then over off the other side. Again, feeling a nice opening in that side body. And the hip that is on the same side of the body as the arm that's extended out the most. Press that hip back and you'll add a little more length in this move. And then let's come back through center with the hands. We're going to come back up to our tabletop position. And this time we're going to curl the toes under behind us and just walk the hands back toward the knees and then walk the hands up onto the thighs. So we're coming up tall and the toes are curled under. This is a big foot stretch and it can be kind of intense, especially if you have been on your feet a lot during the daytime. If it becomes really intense, you can always take a little break by coming all the way up onto the knees, bringing the hips right up above the knees, taking a little break there, and then coming back down with the hips resting on the heels or just above the heels, really stretching out the bottom of the feet here. And if you need to rise up again, if it gets too intense, do so. And then we can lower back down. All right, let's come back to our tabletop. We're going to come back up to our down dog again. We're going to raise the right leg up at a diagonal from the right hip. And then just bring the knee forward as if we were going to come all the way through with the foot, but come up with the knee. And rest the knee right beside the right hand. So we're coming into a pigeon. You'll want to come off the toes and back, so lower the top of the back foot. You may walk that foot back slightly if it feels good. This can be intense on the hip, so be very gentle with yourself. So we're in this pigeon position here, allowing some opening in the hips and in the hip flexor of the leg that is extended out behind us. It might feel nice to stay right in this position with the fingertips supporting in front of that front bent leg. It might also feel nice to lower down onto the forearms or possibly all the way down onto the head. You can make fists with the hands to stack them and rest the head on both hands or on one fist, or you might even bring the head all the way down to the mat, just depending on what feels right for you today. And wherever you are, just relax into this position, allowing gravity to do the work here. Gravity and the weight of the body. And then if you are all the way down, forward folded onto the mat, press back up with the hands, coming back into that tall pigeon. And then we're going to bend the back knee so that the foot behind is pointing up toward the ceiling. Take the left palm and use it as your support in front of the body on the mat, and bring the right hand up and back toward the foot. Now it might not reach the foot, and that's okay. If it doesn't, then we can just rest it on the back of the thigh. We can rest it on the hip. If it does reach the foot, you can do just a gentle little tug on the top of the foot to give yourself a quad stretch. And if it doesn't reach, you can always just bring the heel closer to the bum, which also helps to stretch that quad. So a little bit of a stretch in the front of that leg. Now we'll come back here, both hands in front of the front leg. And we're going to come back into our downward facing dog. So just bring that leg back, that right leg, coming into your down dog here. Pedaling the feet a little bit, gripping into those fingertips, allowing space between shoulders and ears, crown toward the front of your mat. Let's lift the left leg up, diagonal from the left hip. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, bringing that left knee forward, close to the left thumb, and then allowing that right leg and back to extend. You may or may not want to walk that right foot back a little bit, really allowing the leg to lengthen out back. You can bring both hands right in front of the left shin, beside the left knee. If this is hard on the knees, or you might have a knee issue or knee injury, you can do a reclined pigeon on your back, which is like a figure 4 shape. And it is a little bit more gentle on the knees. So that's always an option, just to take this position on your back and be gentle with the knees. You can also stay up tall like so, or bring the forearms down, making your fist to rest your head on, or bringing the forehead all the way down to the mat. And just feel the sensations here. Feel the opening in the hip, as well as the hip flexor of the hip of the bent leg, the hip flexor of the straight leg. And notice how this may feel so different on this leg than it did on the other one. It's very, very normal for one side to feel really different than the other. Let's press ourselves back up with the hands. If our forehead has been on the mat, we'll bend the back knee so that the foot comes to face or point toward the ceiling. Using the right hand right in front, we can lift the left arm up and bring it back behind. And if it doesn't reach the leg, we'll let it rest on the hip or on the thigh behind us. If it does reach the foot, we can give a very gentle tug on the top of that foot, and you'll definitely feel that opening in the front of the quad of that back leg. And we want to be gentle here, very gentle. And then we'll straighten that leg back out and press into the hands as we come back up to our downward facing dog. And hopefully we're feeling a little wake up in the legs, a little release of some tension. Hopefully this just feels really nice on the legs here. All right, from here, we are going to walk the hands forward, coming into a forward fold. And just rocking a little bit side to side here, bending the knees as generously as you feel is right for you. We're not going to worry with keeping super straight legs here. We want lengthening in the back of the legs and releasing in the low back. And then we're going to bend the knees generously and roll up tall into our mountain pose. Drawing the hands together at the chest for our prayer position. Taking a moment just to relax, maybe closing the eyes and feeling the heartbeat, feeling the breath pattern, the depth and pacing of the breath. And then we're going to raise the arms up above, shoulders, maybe a little back bend at the top, bending forward into our forward fold. And this time we're going to bring the feet back into our down dog. We're going to lower the knees, and we're going to lower all the way down onto the tummy. And from here, we'll bring the hands right under the shoulders. Feet are directly behind the hips. Use the upper back muscles to lift the head and chest off the floor, and just glance toward the front edge of your mat, really pressing the pubic bone into the mat to protect the low back. You can even raise the hands off the mat because the effort here is coming from the back. And then we'll lower down. This time we're going to press up just a little higher, so we'll use the base of the palms a little bit more, still using strength in the upper back and bringing the head a little higher. And then we'll lower back down. And now we're going to roll over onto our backs. Bring the knees up to the chest, give them a little hug, and then rock from side to side. Noticing how this feels on the upper hips and the low back. Let's cross the ankles over one another and bring the knees a little closer to the chest. See if you can reach the outsides of the feet. If you can't quite reach the outsides of the feet, you might be able to wrap the fingers around the big toes. And we're just going to kind of rock here a little bit more. If you've got the outsides of the feet, same thing. Just rock a little side to side. And even pulling the feet a little bit closer toward the body. then relaxing them down and rocking a little bit more. And you can kind of pull the toes toward the backs of the thighs, just sort of opening up the outer edges of the ankles and the tops of the feet there. And then we'll release the feet. We're going to bring the soles of the feet to rest on the mat, opening the feet out, walk them out to the outer edges of your mat, and then let the knees knock together in the center. So the knees come to touch in the center and the feet are out at the edges of the mat. And this may cause the outer edges of the feet to raise, which is totally fine. And just relax here. Just letting gravity again do the work. And then let's bring walking the feet toward one another again, bringing the knees to point directly toward the ceiling. And soles of the feet are flat on the floor now. If you have a block, this is a great time to grab your block. We're going to come into a supported bridge here. So just like with a regular bridge, and if you don't have the block, you can do a regular bridge here, or you can stick a pillow beneath where you would put the block. We're just going to press into the heels using the backs of the thighs, the glutes, and the front of the thighs to press the hips up toward the ceiling, and then bring that block on whichever setting you choose. I would say low or medium, and let the sacrum rest right on the block. And this can be a wonderful release. You might immediately feel the urge to go, ah. It can feel really nice to allow this release, this pressure on the sacrum, and gravity again is doing the work here, just pulling, using the weight of the body to create some pressure there on the sacrum, which can really be a nice release after a long day. So close the eyes here, just relax into this supported bridge, letting everything in the body relax. There's not much effort that has to be made here because of the support of the block beneath us. If you are doing a bridge without the block, you may want to go ahead and come down because you are using a lot more effort than those of us that have the block. And just letting everything go here, really allowing some relaxation to come in. Remembering to breathe and let breath relax you even more. And to come out of this position, we're going to just press into the heels of the feet again, using the thighs and the glutes to lift us up slightly, and then we'll slowly remove that block and slowly lower the hips down to the floor. And we're going to do a legs up the wall next. If you have a wall near you and you want to do this right beside the wall, it's a wonderful way to do it because you do have extra support. Let me show you how to come into that legs up the wall if you are seated right beside the wall and you want to use it as your support. You actually want to come to sit with the knees bent toward the ceiling, soles of the feet are flat on the floor, and your shoulder is against the wall. Now from here, make sure that I don't roll into anything behind me. We're going to roll onto the back and lift the legs up and press with one hand against the wall so that we can turn ourselves around with legs to be right up against the wall. And the heels can rest there, and the bum can be right against the base of the wall if that feels comfortable. If the hamstrings are tight, you might need to shimmy, push with the heels, bringing the hips slightly away from the wall. So either way works. And to come out of that, if you do have legs up against the wall, you would bend the knees toward the chest and then rock over to the side and press yourself up with the hands. Now, if you're on the mat and you're like, well, I don't really have a space that works for me to put my legs up the wall, there's furniture in the way, or it's just not practical right now, the other way to do this is to bring the knees toward the chest and just lift the feet up toward the ceiling. Now, obviously, you don't have the wall to rest against, so there's a little more effort here that you're putting in, but you are getting the benefits of this inversion. And if you've been on your feet all day, just having this inversion in the legs can be wonderful. If you want to relax the legs more, you can bring the hands behind the thighs to provide a little more support. You might want to do some ankle circles here or movement of the feet just to, again, work the muscles a little to create a little more circulation. That's one of the benefits of these inversions, just helping with circulation. And if you have a strap, or if you don't have a strap, but you maybe have a towel, beach towel, bath towel, something like that, you can put the towel behind the legs, holding it on either side of the legs with the hands, elbows against the floor to give you some support. And I have mine wrapped just above the backs of the knees. And that can give you a little more relaxation in the legs. You might even pull the legs toward you just a little bit and see how that feels. You can really play with this and see what feels good to you. If you have legs up the wall, or even if you don't, you can even do this move where you open the legs wide like a V and then bring the feet back together. So there's just some options here on how to enjoy this inversion. And if you want to just do a classic legs up the wall, hang out there for about 5 minutes, it's a wonderful way to allow any blood that's maybe pooled in the legs during a long day to flow back out. And it also is a wonderful relaxant for the nervous system. It's a great move to do before bedtime, to have legs up the wall, just a static position, because it will help you sleep. It'll help you get to sleep. It'll help you sleep soundly. It just allows the whole body to start to relax a little bit more. So regardless of where you are in legs up the wall, let's bring the legs back down. If you're up against the wall, you can come out of that position, bending the knees toward the chest and then rocking yourself to the side. Let's come into a full Shavasana here with the legs extended out in front. I'm going to work my way back up onto my mat fully, letting the feet fall open, bringing the arms to either side of the body, letting them rest on the mat, opening the palms toward the ceiling, closing the eyes, and just letting everything go here. Just be here and breathe, letting any thoughts come without attachment or judgment. And I'll let you know when to come back to full awareness. And just before we start to move the body again at all, take notice of the muscles of the face, the jaw, the brow, that space between the eyebrows, and those muscles around the eyes, and just notice if there's any tension there that you need to release. And just allow that opening and that letting go in the face. And then let's bring some movement to the fingers and the toes, making some circles with the ankles or rocking them feet side to side, maybe making circles with the wrists. Rock the hips from side to side slightly. And then take a full body stretch here, reaching the arms up above the shoulders. And then turning over onto one side, pillowing the head with the arm, and stay here for one breath cycle, keeping the eyes closed. And we'll use the hands to press us up to seated, coming back into that Sukhasana, that comfortable seated position, and keeping the eyes closed again as long as you can. Sitting in Sukhasana just as we began our practice, we'll start bringing attention to the breath and the heartbeat. And then noticing points in the body that are touching our mat. Noticing any change in the state of mind or the state of the emotion since we first came to practice. Taking notice of our clothing against our skin, the temperature of the air in the room, the feeling of the cool air as it enters the nostrils, and then that warm air as it exits the nostrils. Let's bring the hands together at prayer position at the heart. And take a big full belly inhale and chant Om on the exhale together. Om. Bringing the thumbs to rest on the forehead, may we have peace in our thoughts. Thumbs to the lips, may we have peace in our words. And thumbs back down to the heart space, may we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. And I bow as I say, Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. I hope that this practice has brought some relaxation, some peace and tranquility into your day, and that you can take that either into sleep with you this evening, or that you can carry it on about the rest of your day and take that peace and tranquility into every space that you enter. Thanks again for being here. I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Let me know any comments or questions that you have below. Namaste.